What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the STEM Heroes podcast. I am David Young, your host. Quick intro to what we're talking about and who we're talking to today. Today, we got Grant Brewer on the podcast. He works for a company called DroneUp. If you've never heard of them, they are a drone delivery company. They've got contracts with Walmart and other places to literally do physical packaged goods delivery to people's homes or businesses. Very, very cool. He is a former high school educator and taught drones in the schools, and now he does some outreach stuff with DroneUp. So a really cool intersection of where STEM careers can lead. And so he can talk about how things went for him in the classroom teaching drones and what it's like now at DroneUp, working sort of at the very cutting edge of the industry where people are doing drone deliveries and a lot of really awesome things. So very cool to see all this come together. Was very excited to talk to him. I know you'll be excited to hear from him as well. Before we dive into the podcast, if you want a free shirt, maybe the softest shirt you've ever worn in your life, you can get a free one by just going to Apple Podcasts, finding the STEM Heroes podcast, and leaving us a review. Just take time to leave whatever thoughts you have, whatever rating you want, screenshot it, send it to me, david@dronelaunchacademy.com, and I'll send you a free STEM Heroes t-shirt for being a part of this podcast and joining us in listening. They're very comfortable. I order them off this website called Printful, and I order the nice shirts. So everybody talks about, dang, David, this is one of the softest, nicest shirts I own. And I order them for myself even, so I'm not just cheaping out on you. They're going to be nice shirts. They cost us like $15-20 a piece just for a t-shirt. All right, my t-shirt promo pitch is out of the way. Let's dive into the episode with Grant and enjoy the podcast. Welcome back to the STEM Heroes podcast. Today we have with us Grant Brewer from a company called DroneUp, doing some very cool and interesting things. Very excited to get Grant to dive into his background for you on the podcast, talk about cool stuff, drones, STEM, career related. Grant, thanks for coming on. Why don't you start off a little bit? Just tell us kind of who you are and who you work for and a little bit about how you got here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thanks for inviting me and let me be able to come on the podcast and talk a little bit more about my background, what we do, and what we've been doing here at Drone Up and how I got here into this position. So to start off, my background is I was actually in working in higher education. I worked in higher education for about 10 years and then got into working in secondary education and did that for roughly 8 years, with 5 of those being in career technical education or CTE, doing that. And 3 of those 5 years in CTE was being a drone teacher and drone instructor. So I had the opportunity to be one of the first 7 teachers in the state of Arkansas to help set up UAS or unmanned aerial systems or uncrewed aerial systems as a CTE program of study in the state of Arkansas, which that was 2017, 2018. And now we had 7 schools then. I think we're up to just above 30, like maybe 30 schools where you can go and do drones and UAS as a CTE program of study. And with that, much like what you have in other schools where you can go and do like agriculture and you can do 3 years of it to become a what they call a CTE completer. We started that. So much like how you have English and English 1, 2, 3, 4 for your 4 years, we have UAS 1, 2, and 3 as courses of study that you can go in and do. So we started off, I was one of the teachers at the first 7 schools. And I think by now we're up to like 32 schools across the state of Arkansas that are doing UAS drones, where students can go in, they can get their FAA Part 107 certification and get that licensure and get that approval so they can go out and be licensed operators and make money as drone operators across the country or across the state of Arkansas.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess if they had, their 107, technically they can go anywhere in the country, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
So is that like with the 1, 2, 3, level 1, 2, 3, what do those different courses consist of? I'm assuming the first one is getting that license, but then where do they go from there?
So actually the way we set it up, UAS 1 was heavily focused on being a hobbyist and going through
Okay.
the program that the FAA has set up where you can get your and
The
I
trust.
forgot even your trust certification. You can go and do that now. But I mean, even when we started, trust wasn't even out there. So what we did a lot of in UAS 1 was really going in and just understanding rules and regulations of what it is as a hobbyist. Now we're transitioning to try and get that trust certification, them doing that. So really it was a lot of understanding rules, regulations, just getting stick time, getting your hands on drones. We had flight simulators that they could do on computers before we actually went outside and flew a drone. And then we did a lot of hands-on as well too. So back in the day, which I'm not even sure what they do now because I've been out of it for a while of teaching it, but we had what they called the DJI Flame Wheel F450. I mean, it's a little drum kit. We taught soldering, so they learn how to solder, put together motors, assemble them, the ESCs, put all that together on a drum kit. We like to call it a drone in a shoebox because it was all in a little shoebox. We did that. So we spent the fall understanding rules, regulations, to be a hobbyist, going out, getting hands-on stick time, and then really hands-on of building a drone, putting one together, and then going out and flying that drone that they helped build. UAS2, we took a deep dive in the fall to Part 107 so they could go and start getting their license and certification to be a drone operator. So they did that. We spent a lot of time, I mean, going in, learning sectional charts, going through everything you need to qualify for the Part 107. And then in the spring of UAS level 2, we basically disassembled that flame wheel and we still use the motors and ESCs and everything and a flight board or a board for us to like solder together as well.
Real quick, there's gonna be some non-technical people listening to this, so describe what I mean, I think they know what a motor is, but what is an ESC?
The electronic speed controller. So it fluctuates the current that's going into the motor to make sure it's not overloading the motor and everything. So we took all those parts, basically everything that made the drone fly. We took that off the plastic, the airframe that we had for the flame wheel, and we got into 3D printing. And basically, we let our students start figuring out, and we found a lot of them online, and they had to go in and edits and everything through different CAD programs where they would 3D print their own airframe. So it really got
Cool.
into a lot of creativity, get into the colors of the filament you want to use for your drone airframe. But then we start getting into all these other sort of designs of like what those drones really looked like. I mean, they're all still quadcopters, but we had lots of different colors and shapes and sizes of what those were.
Cool.
And then we also developed a obstacle course. We developed a drone competition where they would fly those drones through an obstacle course and see how well they can control and manually operate the drone.
Man, that sounds awesome, especially for, like, high school. You would think this feels like something you might do in a collegiate level or vocational school, but, like, to be able to do that like, what grades were these kids doing
So
this?
these were all high school students. So it was all ninth through 12th graders. And that was also
Cool.
part of why we pushed the UAS level 2 was whenever we started doing the Part 107 because some of them
Yep.
we needed them to be 16 years old. So that's why we
Yep.
waited till they're at least sophomores,
Yep.
sophomore junior level, so they could go sit for the Part 107.
Yeah.
UAS level 3, what we did with that was really more of an internship type class where, I mean, all the different ways that drones are used across different industries, whether it's construction, agriculture, film, all those different things that we could do. And we could basically start using drones and have them, since there'd be FA Part 107, they could go out and start diving into a track of how they could use drones in different
Mm,
industries and get exposure to that,
that's
whether it's
awesome.
mapping and all that sort of thing as well, too.
Very cool. It sounds like you helped develop this program. Were you a teacher at one of those 7 initial schools?
Yes, yeah. So this was all pre DroneUp before I came to DroneUp. I was a high school teacher and was teaching day in, day out at one of those 7 schools. We had a curriculum that we were using and it was a lot of trial and error and we worked our way through it and eventually helped fine tune that. Some of us, the 7 teachers, we were on this curriculum committee. My 3rd year, we had you said it, and that was a good segue. And I did set you up for that, but talk about it was kind of like a collegiate program. We did have a local college that started a drone program within those 3 years. And our 3rd year, we did offer concurrent enrollment and we offered college level courses. So students could get college level credit from our UAS program as well, too.
Gotcha. I'm glad it was a good segue. We didn't plan this, guys. It's just this all organic talk. That's really cool. I have questions about that and touching on what it was like operating that in a student high school environment. I'm curious, just real quick, for you to explain to people sort of the transition from that to what you do now and talk a little bit about your current role.
Absolutely. So with my current role, what actually happened is I was teaching that for 3 years. My wife got a new job and we relocated. And I was known kind of in the state as being a drone guy and everything. And the new school district I was teaching at, the school wanted to start drones. And in fact, they did. The school district that we're here in Bentonville, Arkansas, they started drones and I was going to start teaching that. But here in Bentonville, Arkansas, we have 2 major players in the drone industry. We have DroneUp and Zipline that are in the area. They are here locally. And at the school district I was in, they had DroneUp come in and was started talking to some of the students about the drone industry and doing drone delivery, just kind of like what we're doing now a little bit. They came in and I talked to our VP of learning development at the time. I talked with him, kind of told him my background of teaching drones and working at the college level as well too. And he has said, I want to learn more about this. So we had a few Zoom calls and he said, we're actually trying to look, I go, we're looking to grow and expand. We're going to be scaling up our operations and we're going to have a need to start recruiting a lot of drone pilots. So like this need for a workforce development pipeline is something that we really want to look into. With my background working in high schools and working with colleges, is there a way we could focus on this? And that was whenever my position became the collegiate training liaison for DroneUp. And it was
Okay.
really working with there's a program that the FAA has. It's the FAA UAS CTI program. So Unmanned Aerial Systems Collegiate Training Initiative that's out there. They have a list of colleges that are all have training programs across the country. They kind of modeled my position after that to see if we could kind of get drone up in this area. And we've gone on to work with colleges and high schools across the country and the markets that we're in to really partner and start recruiting talent and just help with exposure to the UAS industry as well.
Very cool. Now, again, I'm very familiar with DroneUp since I've been in the drone industry for a while and very familiar with Zipline. But if you're a teacher and you're like, I don't know any of these companies, give a quick overview. What is DroneUp? What do they do?
We're all in this delivery space with different retail partners. I mean, mainly what we're partnered with right now is Walmart, where we're operating and doing drone delivery for last mile delivery. So it's an opportunity to help take vehicles off the road and find another avenue for that last mile of getting products to consumers quicker in a more efficient way and being more sustainable and everything. Really, right now, what we do is we look to try to get products to customers in 30 minutes or less. That's what we're looking at. We have an operation. We're at 34 hubs across the country. We considered 7 different markets. We are in Virginia Beach, where our headquarters is located in Virginia, and then we're also in the Tampa and Orlando area in Florida, and then
That's where I am.
Dallas. Awesome. So you'll have to give it a try if you haven't. You just check and
Hold
see if
on.
your delivery range.
So yeah, let's pause here real quick 'cause I live in Lakeland. I live almost equidistant between Tampa and Orlando. So you're saying at Walmart. So you'll be at a Walmart, a drone up there. If I'm like, hey, I want to get a drone up delivery, and for those listening or watching, literally this is a drone drops a package off in your yard, right? Like people have been talking about for a while. Like it's
Yes.
happening on probably more of a limited scale because I assume of regulatory issues. Shocker, everyone, the government's not very fast to adapt and change the regulatory process. So if I'm going to go to a Walmart, you're saying there's ones in Tampa that I can go to and I can order something and have a drone deliver it.
Yes, absolutely.
Do I go on
Sure.
an app? Do I call the store? What do I do?
In the Tampa and Orlando area, right now we are on a third party site. It's droneupdelivery.com. You go to droneupdelivery.com. And I think currently what we have set up is you go on there and you'll start to shop. It'll ask you for your address. And if you're within delivery range of one
Sure.
of our hubs at a Walmart, then they'll let you continue on and go in and continue to shop. We host, depending on if you're at a super center or a neighborhood market, anywhere to almost 25,000 items on from a super center and just over 8,000 items from a neighborhood market. You can go in and shop. And from the time you hit submit on your order, we try to get to you within 30 minutes or less. I think our average time is around 22 to 25 minutes.
It's
And
wild.
we operate right now under FAA Part 107. So we have to keep the drone within visual line of sight. And whenever the drone takes off, it flies out. We have a cruising altitude. It's all different based on airspace that we're at in different parts of the country and what it's like with the national airspace system around. And then we'll lower down to about 80 feet. That's our package delivery area. And then we'll lower down on a winch. The box will lower down and land on the ground. Winch comes back up and drone comes back to the hub at the Walmart. And we'll
That is
get to
pretty
you within
cool.
30 minutes.
So I live in Lakeland. It's about 30 miles away from Tampa. So I doubt you're going to get all the way out here. However, maybe I'll just go stand in somebody else's front yard and be like, I live here. That's very, very cool. Okay. So, and you're talking about they're recruiting students. They want a pipeline. What are the opportunities? You talked about these really cool programs that you had helped roll out at high schools and some collegiate partners. So what does that pipeline look like for a student that is really into drones? They know all this stuff because I think a lot of times, at least in the current environment, what I've seen is the drone skill is oftentimes more of a supplement to something else you do. Like you're a surveyor. Oh, it's going to help you to add drones. Oh, you're a construction project manager. You're still a construction project manager. You just make your life easier with a drone or video production, whatever. But with DroneUp, it sounds like there are jobs that are like you are a drone operator or technician or whatever, which is, I would say, at this stage, maybe a little less common. In the future, I bet it won't be. But what does that sort of pathway look like for people who have a heavy interest in drones and want sort of a career there?
Yeah, absolutely. Part of my position and me coming to Drone Up was exactly that. I think I told you about that UAS 3 course was always like, it'll let you go into a lot of different areas, whatever you want to do. And we just called it drones were basically another tool in your toolbox. It was something that you could have to help you out in whatever career and industry you're in. And it was always one of those things that you're never going to be a drone operator. It was always going to be something where you would come in and be able to use drones in different aspects to help your current job, whether it's going out and inspecting lines, like we have power line technicians to go out and do that sort of thing. So we always knew that. And that was one of the things that we were like, when is this going to become a reality that you just be a full-time drone operator? So what we always said was and that's what we do a lot in CTE, especially in technology. And even right now is we're preparing students for jobs that don't exist. And even in 2017, 2018, 2019, we were like, well, yeah, when will be the day that we have people that are full-time drone operators? And knowing whenever DroneUp started doing this and having full-time drone operators, I was like, this is where I want to go because it was something we always preached. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to be a full-time drone operator. Going back to that, and what I use in talking with high schools and students is you really use those 3 years, those last 3 years of high school. You have to be 16 years old to get your FA Part 107. That allows you to get 2 years of experience under your belt. So go out and do those things to build a book of work and build a portfolio to show that you've been operating. If you go to a job interview and you're 18 years old, and even if you worked in fast food, nothing wrong with that, but it shows you can come to work, you can be on time and make a wage, but it also shows that you're committed and responsible as well too. So take those
Sure.
years of high school and get your FA Part 107, go out and start doing it. So working with realtors and just doing aerial photos and doing that. And you can come to us whenever you become a drone operator with DroneUp. You have to be 18 years old and have your FA Part 107. We have no other educational requirements to be a drone operator. So we have recruited some students straight out of high school or a year or two. And we've had some 18, 19, 20-year-old students have come to work for us. And one of the great partnerships we've also worked out with is Richard Bland College of William and Mary in Virginia. It's about 45, or actually it's about 2.5 hours away from our headquarters. We have a training program where we house and do all of our onboarding and have people go through and see what it's like to actually operate. We worked
Very
with
cool.
them, and basically we compared our training program with college level courses. Again, kind of that concurrent dual enrollment. And if students don't have a college degree, we're grading them 12 hours of college credit. We partnered with Richard Bland where they can get 12 hours of UAS college level credit. Richard Bland is a 2-year university, so they work towards an associate's degree. So that's 12 out of 60 hours. And it's just straight given to them for being part of our training program.
Yeah.
So it jumpstarts their academic career. So they can go back to Florida, Dallas, Arizona, Utah, and continue on to their associate's degree in an earn and learn model and continue to get their college level associates and then also work for us full time as well too. So it's
I like
something
that.
that's
Earn
really
and
helpful.
learn.
Yeah, that earn and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's great. When you were talking about showing different attributes as a high school student, even as a college student or whatever, as someone who, I hire people, you'd be surprised how far just showing that you're responsible and that you can show up on time and actually just follow through with work is a little
Yeah.
bit more rare than you might imagine. So being able to demonstrate that too. Now, I was going to ask you another question. I know there are some apps out there if you're working on the DJI Fly app, or you can do some other ones like Drone Data, or gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking on it. But the ones that can like log your flight time if you fly
Oh,
through there, or you can connect it with like your DJI account or whatever, and you can keep track of your flight records, your logs, how many hours you have behind the sticks. Like I've seen some job postings for drone pilots and like, hey, we want 3,000 hours of flight time or 300 hours of that you've proven that you've flown a drone or whatever. In the manned aviation world, it's all very standardized where you got logbooks and you're always, doing that stuff and getting check rides out and all that stuff. Is that something that either you as Drone Up or other companies, do they look at that and want certain types of hours, or do you guys don't care about that because you're just going to train them anyways?
To have experience. I mean, we like to show and know that people have experience flying drones and being able to operate a drone. We don't have like a set requirement. It's not included in the job description or a requirement, but we kind of work through that in the interview process and kind of gauge a little bit more about what their experience level is like. If you've never flown a drone, you're not going to be able to come and be a drone operator, and we're not going to train you and help you go get your Part 107. We kind of require you to have that on the front end to come in and
Yeah.
do that.
Which is why you
So
have those pipeline kind of things, yeah. And the thing I was talking about was it's called air data. I don't know why I was having a brain fart,
it's
but, like, air data can, like, log all your okay, yeah, I was just curious about that, cool. I think that's a nice end-to-end, like, "Hey, here's the pathway, here are the current opportunities." I'm curious what you think since you're pretty involved in this world. There's companies like DroneUp are like, "Hey, we need drone operators," you know? I know people talk about, "Oh, Amazon Prime Air was trying to do stuff." I know that's kinda been, like, hot, cold, "Oh, it's gonna work. No, they're not doing anything." There's been a lot of attempts at certain things to limiting I know, like, UPS had their own sort of like, "Hey, we're gonna make our own drone stuff," and then I heard that they had a lot of delivery drivers who would feel very threatened by that, and they have unions, and so they push so there's a lot, I think, to work through, but how do you see the landscape going from here on out? Like in the next, let's say 5 to 10 years, what types of jobs do you think there are going to be for drone specific careers, whether that's technicians, whether that's people monitoring 5 drones at once, like a one to many type of thing? What does the drone job marketplace look like 5, 10 years from now?
That's a great question because I mean, I think increasingly where it's going to go, and we're already kind of going there right now. I mean, we are looking more for more autonomous options, having drone operators and pilots being able to understand that. And that comes with the automation starts going into one to many, where they can observe from a remote location and see what it's like to operate many drones. It's down the road, and we're working on that. Everybody in this space in the industry are looking to try to go to that because it becomes more efficient and more cost effective as well. So I think that's definitely where we're going, but also it's going to become more of the entire process is going to be more automated, I believe. We
Yeah.
just rolled out a couple weeks ago our drone ecosystem and what that kind of looks like. I mean, having different ways to get products to consumers faster and having different opportunities to get products to the drone so we can deliver it to consumers and vice versa. So there's a lot of options that are out there that I would encourage people to go check that out. Our drone ecosystem that we sent almost a month ago now. That
And when you
it's been
say
a
drone
whirlwind.
ecosystem, what do you mean? Like, talk about that a little more.
With the drone ecosystem, what we have is there's an opportunity. What we just announced and rolled out was what we call our DBX, which is a destination box, where you can have this box located where we have our drone hub, say at Walmart. So we have like right now, and then we have this box at a neutral location. So say there was a quick service restaurant that we could put that, maybe there's a couple of them. We could put this destination box or DBX at that location, and it has two-way communication out of it. So say you have a fast food restaurant that has a burger or taco or something, they can walk out, type in, load the box with your food order. The drone can fly over. It has automation in it, and it will put the box up to the drone, and they can continue on and deliver the package to the consumer, and vice
Mm.
versa. We could also go pick up at a quick service restaurant and then deliver to the box. You have an app, you come up to the box and type in the code and out pops your delivery of your burger, fast food, chicken, like whatever it is, and you can get it there. So what we're
Kinda these,
seeing
like, little hubs, basically.
yeah, so basically we have our hubs and our box. So it creates a whole ecosystem because with that, we have drones that we're rolling out with that too, newer drones in the event, being able to go beyond visual line of sight. And then also there's a whole backside of that with the software systems as well too. So that's why I call it the whole ecosystem because we have our
Yeah.
hubs, destination boxes, eventually what we're calling depots where we have flight operators that are there and operating drones remotely from a remote location. And
Okay.
then the whole backend system for software to help that.
That's fascinating and awesome sounding. You're talking about this kinda stuff and thinking about jobs, and I've seen this too, like you said, like, it's a push more towards autonomy, so I think some people are like, "Oh, they're gonna need as many drone pilots," like, at the end of the day, you're gonna need people who know how to fly the drone, but it's gonna be more and more important to know how to manipulate the software that is controlling the drone. So if I'm looking at, "Hey, I want careers in this area," sure, knowing how to pilot the drone is gonna be important, but are you seeing that like, hey, all the job openings in the UAS industry are going to be like software engineers, electrical engineers, like maintenance techs? Talked about that kind of one to many pilots. Like maybe you're looking at a screen of 10 drones and oh, I got to take over that one to fly around an obstacle that it couldn't figure out or something like that. If you were a student and they're like, hey, what skills should I focus on now if I want to have a career in this in 10, 15 years from now? What kind of skills would you say are the most important for them to develop? Like which areas?
Yeah, I would definitely, and not necessarily a skill per se that is really taught, but it's really being able to multitask. Because like that's when we start getting into the one to many. That's exactly what we start looking at. Where you have multiple drones on a screen, being able to know what that's like. Definitely, I think the hands on. There's always going to be space for that, especially with a highly regulated area with
Mhm.
drones in the national airspace system. Maintenance is always a big issue. Making sure that the drone is airworthy and safe to fly. Because our CEO and a lot of other people say like you can have 10,000 flights, but people always know about that one crash. And you have what is it? I think
Mm.
it's like you can have 10,000 attaboys, but one oh crap moment is what people remember and everything. So
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
sure that drones are flying safely and they're operating, especially with the FAA, is something that we love to like make sure that we are keeping that track record. So maintenance is also going to be there. I think also the coding programming side is going to be something that is going to be continued as everything becomes more autonomous and
Yeah.
being able to operate that and understanding GIS and kind of what you're saying. Like we do everything we can to make sure that we are avoiding those obstacles. And we go out, we do a lot of research, especially with different mapping systems, but making sure that we are avoiding things like here in Northwest Arkansas is we are in a older community and we're in the natural state and we care about our trees and we have different areas that we block off as no fly zones because they have very tall trees that we want to avoid and we go around those. So make sure we're avoiding those sort of
Mm.
things. And also, much like Dallas, and especially here in Northwest Arkansas, we have a lot of construction happening. And
Mm,
being up to date and how we can have people going on the GIS and the software and programming side. We have a lot of cranes in the area
yep.
that changes and moves. And like one day there'll be a crane there. You'll find out, like you'll hop in and they have a crane that's going to be there for the next 6 months because they're building a new
Yeah.
hotel or something. So
Yeah.
just being able to adjust with those things on the fly and those sort of
Yeah.
things.
Well, not even, I mean, like you're saying, a crash, obviously that's horrible publicity, but like the drones y'all are flying aren't little mini $400 guys. It's not something you want to have to pick up in pieces, you know what I mean, from a financial standpoint. So,
Awesome.
when I'm thinking about the future of careers and stuff, I don't know if I created this in my brain or I heard somebody else say it. Maybe somebody else said it. But anytime there's like innovation, sometimes people get concerned, like, oh, it's going to take away my job or this or that. But really, it's like, hey, when CAD software came out for computers, yeah, people were drafting stuff by hand, but you still need people to like come up with designs. It's just they're able to do it faster. Or like, they literally used to keep accounting. Where I was reading some biography on John Rockefeller, right? And he started off as an accountant, bookkeeper, keeping ledgers by hand. Then they came up with like QuickBooks and spreadsheets, and people are like, "Oh no, now," but no, you still need people who understand the system. You're just using the software to make it faster, easier for you. So same thing with drones. Like, oh, I'm not going to be able. They don't need people to fly it anymore. It's like, well, you still need to understand how the drone operates and how to fly it if you needed to fly it, but you need to know how to manipulate the system. All right, so let's jump back real quick. You have a great background. I'm interested in some of this stuff. So back in your high school teacher days, right? And that was early on in the world of drones, if you will, even though it wasn't that long ago, right? Like 2017. Do you remember any specific stories that stand out or any specific students where maybe they had some light bulb moments or you just had some really fun memories from that time that you think would be helpful to share with people if they're listening, maybe they're teachers, educators?
Yeah, so a couple different things thinking about it. So one of the first things, I mean, whenever we rolled out the drone program, kind of talking about that we were going to have drones and offer it to high school students. What that was and what that looks like, I was actually applied for the job and got the job, and they had already started recruiting students before I was even in place. We had, I think, 120 students sign up, but we only had 80 spots to let students in start off the first year. And really, what students thought the program was going to be like. I know
Mm,
drone racing is a big area and it's a big part of our industry, but everybody thought they were going to come in and be drone racers. That we're going to come in and fly drones as fast as possible and go through different gates and obstacles and everything. And yes, like there are people that are in the drone racing league and do other things and they make money doing that and everything. But we are looking for other areas, like we're talking about how we can stack that on to other career areas and other industries as well, like construction and stuff. So
yeah.
really having to go through and get that kind of mindset of what you're doing and using drones for. So people jumped in and wanted to fly drones and they want to fly them fast. But then kind of understanding that opportunity whenever we go out and take a Phantom 4 or a Mavic Pro and take those outside on the football field to fly, we had a lot of people that kind of took a step back. They're like, I'm okay. I don't really want to fly. I was like, but wait, you're in the drone class, but you don't want to fly a drone.
Were they just scared to mess it
Yeah,
up
they
or
were
something?
they started getting a little scared, but it was like, "Well, no, I can fly a little toy drone and race it around the gym, but when I get outside of the football field and see, like, we have a $2,000 drone," we saw a lot of people take a step back. So
Yeah.
understanding that it was a tool and it wasn't just all for fun, like, we wanted to have fun, but it was not just a, "Let's race these drones and fly them as fast as I can through everything," and
Yeah.
we did a couple things in the classroom where we set up our own obstacle courses out of like stools and little rings and stuff like that that we
Yep.
did around the classroom with like some mini drones. Understanding that. But then also too, whenever we started going out, we found a good way is really applying like photography
Mhm.
whenever students could start seeing their work. I mean, we live in this area and this time, an era now of the selfie mindset and seeing the photos and everything like that for social media. But then also understanding, like, even when you put a drone photo on social media, you need to have an FA Part 107 to do that and
Mhm.
everything. So we had some students that started going out and do that. But once they go and we'd have like a list of a checklist items that we'd fly around the school and take photos. And
Mhm.
we started getting to the aspect of using like, could we use Adobe for photo editing and all these other areas, and people start using that and they start seeing their work out. So
Yep.
that's one of the fun things of applying that and just seeing that aha moment of how students can take their work, take a photo, video, and we started doing some video editing as well too. And they start
Cool.
getting their friends involved and that sort of thing. Like whenever we'd fly, not actually over the football field and everything, but we'd get some very far footage and could try to zoom in with a Mavic zoom of football games and that sort of thing. And we'd edit the video for a pep rally or something. And this gets them excited. You see them in the stands like, "Hey, that's my video. Like I did that."
Yeah.
Thing. So
Yeah,
like,
that's
well,
that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's so important too, because I mean, even in jobs, right? Like if you're doing something and you're working on something and you don't feel like it's connected to something that really matters or like, why, like this is pointless. I feel like a lot of students might feel that way in some subjects in school, right? They're like, I'm never going to use this in real life. So they just don't feel invested in it. And I feel like that about some jobs I've had in the past. You're like, no one's going to read this dumb report I'm working on. Why am I even doing this? So it's really cool for them to have some kind of tangible product like that at the end to be like, oh, they're probably into it because 'cause they're like, "Oh, it's gonna get shown, like, I'm gonna have this sort of thing to be proud of at the end of it," you know?
Well, and another example is that is the high school that I was teaching at. They also went through a progress where they expanded the school. They actually built onto the school and built a few new buildings and expanded some of the wings of our school. And they actually hired an architecture firm to come in. And that architecture firm came in and they used drones in their operations.
Mhm.
They did some 360 flights, some orbital flights around the school, and we had to ask them to come speak to our students. And also with
Cool.
that, we got to go out and do construction progression as they went on.
Mhm.
So we did a lot of stuff
Nice.
beforehand. And as they continued on, we were going out like every couple weeks to get progression of what it looked like with the demolition, the building, the foundations that they were building, everything, and actually got to do that and see that. And students got to see their work kind of lined up and what that looked like. And it was something that was
Yeah.
very eye opening to them too.
Construction company's like, free progression shots? Sure."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's such a cool high school experience, especially if you think about, typically if it's just all book work or things like that. I just feel like if you're a student, it's pretty exciting. I've mentioned this on previous episodes, but I've got 5 younger kids, like 10 is the oldest one. I got 4 boys, and, they're always into drones. They wanna take them out and get them, but they wreck them all so all the time. Get them caught in trees, and can't tell you how many things we've tried to get out, but it's just fun, it's like getting the hands on and, flying it around. I think you've been in it long enough that you might have been able to see, like, a student who was in one of these classes and is now, 2017, we're at 2024. I mean, that's like 7 years. Are there any students that you've been able to, like, track through, like, "Hey, they were in this drone program, and, hey, here's what they're doing now?" I know you've done a lot of different things, so maybe you haven't been able to keep in touch like that, but do you have any stories like that?
Not necessarily. I know one of the other teachers, he actually has ran into some. I know there's some students that we have that have gone to different things, but really, I think more than just tracking them through if they got careers in the drone industry, what they learned was a lot of troubleshooting. And that's one of the biggest things that
Yeah,
we see, especially with us being a startup and everything, is that resiliency and the scrappiness to continue and problem solve. That's what a lot of our students have learned and have continued on in different areas. They got into a lot of different areas of engineering, whether it's like electrical engineering, architecture, and those sort of things. I haven't been able to because I've moved around a couple times
sure.
since 2017 to 2020, whenever I was teaching it and stuff. But we've run into and seen some.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think like you're saying, it's not necessarily like, "Oh, hey, you're gonna learn about drones and you're gonna go get a UAS drone specific job." It's a great tangential skill to have for many careers, and it's really, really cool. Before we wrap up, the point of this podcast is to hopefully inspire, encourage, give ideas to other schools, CTE directors, whatever out there who are thinking, "Hey, drones sound cool," or this whatever technology sounds cool in STEM. Maybe we should try something. What piece of advice would you give them if they're thinking about getting into this? Maybe they want to start a drone program at their school. They're just thinking through it to set them up for success. Given your experience, what would you leave them with?
I think one of the biggest things I would say if you're thinking about starting a drone program, do it. Go out and do it. But also, there's a lot to this. We're preparing students for the FAA Part 107, but also drones are a gateway to the rest of the aviation community as well too. It's a lot smaller price tag, especially I'm talking to administrators and teachers and trying to bring that in. I think the program we developed, the supply list was around $60,000 of supplies, but that was supposed to help retrofit you for the 3-year entire program. So, I mean, if you
Okay.
break that out and everything, and part of that was computers, like, so we had desktop computers with simulators and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But that continues on. Like I was saying, the problem solving skills that come with it for the drone industry, and it's a gateway to the manned aviation industry as well too. So it's a lot shorter price tag than going and setting in all the hours for a manned pilot course and that sort of thing. So it's a great opportunity to get students involved. And then also too, the creativity that comes with it. Cause like I said, I mean, who would have thought even 2017, 2018, 2019, that we were getting groceries delivered to your front door? I mean, it was
Yeah.
something that, like, it was always like, oh yeah, like that's going to come. It's going to come. Other companies are doing that, but it is a reality now. And it's one of those things of where are we going to take it next? I mean, there's a lot of companies that are out there that are doing air taxis. It's always an idea and it's always a crazy far fetched idea until someone actually goes out and does it. I
Yeah. I'm gonna
mean,
let other people test that one out a couple times before I hop in one of those.
yes. So, I mean, I would do that because who knows where it's gonna go. Like, give those
Yeah.
students the opportunity for creativity and build something that's gonna be amazing and having a major effect on not just the industry, but impact as well to people as well across different areas.
I think it's great advice. And obviously, I'm extremely biased because I work for a drone training company, but it's like drones, they're getting more popular, but it's not like a fad. It's not going to fizzle out. It's not just going to be like the entire country and world at some point is going to be like, hey, you know what? Let's not use drones anymore. You know what I mean? It's only getting more and more prevalent, even from like military operation perspective. I know you're talking about drone delivery, but I just think in the news a lot, you see like all this Ukrainian stuff, right? And they're not using these big Reaper drones. They're using little racer drones and throwing a grenade on it, which I don't argue that's good or bad, but it's just reality of like what's happening. Like it is just becoming more and more prevalent use of drones. And then with that, like counter drone stuff is becoming more popular now too, right? Because if drones are prevalent, hey, if you're in charge of a nuclear power plant, you got to think someone could just take a Mavic or even like they could design their little racing drone and go try to fly it into my thing. How do you stop that? So you have to understand how drones work to be able to understand how to stop drones too. So I'm just seconding your opinion of go and teach this stuff because it's not going anywhere. It's like trying to say, the internet's not, we don't need to necessarily teach computers because that'll go away eventually. It's like, well, it's not really going to go away. But yeah, I think some great insight. Cool. Well, Grant, if people wanted to talk to you or send you a message or whatever, what's the best or your preferred way for them to just say, hey, you don't have to give out your home address here, but like, what's a good contact for you?
I'd say LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I think that's where we connected, like,
Yeah.
for, a little bit more about getting this set up. I mean, just,
Yeah.
follow me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message. I do my best to try and check that and follow up with people. I'm slow sometimes on following up with it on LinkedIn, but that's the easiest way to probably find me is on LinkedIn.
Very cool. Well, Grant, I really appreciate your time and telling us all the cool stuff that you guys are doing at DroneUp and what the future looks like for those students who might want to get into this arena. So I really appreciate it. And I know everybody listening probably learned a lot as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Take care, man.